So Marjorie Taylor Greene responded with this: President Trump just attacked me and lied about me. I haven't called him at all. But I did send these text messages today. Apparently, this is what sent him over the edge. The Epstein files. And of course, he's coming after me hard to make an example to scare all other Republicans before next week's vote to release the Epstein files. It's astonishing, really, how hard he's fighting to stop the Epstein files from coming out, that he actually goes to this level. But really, most Americans wish he would fight this hard to help the forgotten men and women of America who are fed up with foreign wars and foreign causes, are going broke trying to feed their families, and are losing hope of ever achieving the American dream. That's what I voted for. I have supported President Trump with too much of my precious time, too much of my own money, and fought harder for him even when almost all other Republicans turned their back and denounced him. But I don't worship or serve Donald Trump. I worship God, Jesus is my savior, and I serve my district, GA14, and the American people. I remain the same today as I've always been, and I will continue to pray this administration will be successful because the American people desperately deserve what they voted for. For me, I remain America first and America only. Now, I have the text messages, but before we look at that, I do want to mention that when she talks here about going broke to feed their families, Trump did take action about that today, just so you're aware. He is actually removing tariffs on importing certain foods like beef because his tariffs were actually raising prices. So now American farmers will be tariffed for anything they bring in for their cattle, but it's actually probably going to be cheaper now to buy Venezuelan beef. But at the end of the day, it is making it cheaper for the American families. I don't think the farmers will like it, but just pointing it out there since she brought this point up. Trump did make a move, semi-undoing what he caused, but he did make a move. So this is the message that Marjorie Taylor Greene sent Trump that sent him over the edge, according to her. Check the flight logs of Epstein's plane. Bill Clinton is on there like 26 times. Hillary, too. For many of us, releasing the Epstein files has always been for the women who were victims of Jeffrey Epstein, but also because we believed that Democrat bad guys like the Clintons were entangled and involved with him. Epstein was the spider that wove the web of the deep state. Lean into it. So she's telling him, I'm sure we'll find Democrats, lean into that. Apparently, Trump doesn't think that's what they're going to find with how he's reacting, but there's another message that she showed. Now, this text here is involving a Natalie. Now, people aren't sure which Natalie, but a lot of people believe this is Natalie Harp. You might know of her. She was called Trump's human printer in the past. Her job was to print out physical copies of articles praising Donald Trump to give to him. Now she has a more important role in the White House. So this has the Natalie, whichever Natalie it is, saying, the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And Marjorie Taylor Greene responds, in every single interview I have done, I have defended President Trump. I've said over and over the women say he did nothing wrong, and their attorney says he's the only one who helped. And Democrats had 4 years to release the files, but did nothing. Stop ignoring the women. Many of them literally voted for President Trump and say so publicly. Them being raped as teenagers is not a hoax. Now, again, I mentioned this in the previous video. If you didn't watch about different things happening, trying to delay or stop the files release, the reason there were 4 years is there was an investigation into the files, which if you haven't paid attention, just recently, Trump is calling for a new investigation, which might lock up the files for years, even with a vote from the House and Senate. Just putting that out there. That is something you should probably watch. My previous video has some context there, but Marjorie had more to say. She mentions here, maybe it was my bill to get rid of the H-1B visas. Now, if you don't know, Trump recently did an interview about how America doesn't have skilled people, and therefore we need to have a bunch of H-1B visas, which is something Marjorie Taylor Greene is against. So even while publicly going against Trump and basically saying, I don't get why he's against the Epstein files being released, which we can insinuate why. She's not saying it, at least yet, but she's giving him the benefit of the doubt. She's been giving him an out. Maybe it's actually not about the files. Maybe it's about the H-1B visas. But if it's about that, why are all of their conversations about the files? If it's Natalie from the White House, why is she complaining to Marjorie Taylor Greene, calling it a hoax. And I do want to be very clear. She's not the only one Trump is going after. Trump is going after every big name Republican that is wanting to release the Epstein files. So again, if it's about the H-1B, why is he going after the guy wanting to release the Epstein files? Isn't that interesting? It's very interesting. I think it's fascinating, right? Absolutely fascinating that it's a hoax, but also it's not a hoax only when the Democrats are involved, and he is now publicly going against anyone that's saying release them. Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying people believe that the Democrats will be in it. And Trump's response is to do what he did. Now, I think for the American people, the bipartisan response is release the files, Republican or Democrat, charge them all. Expose them all. I think that's the bipartisan answer. But that's not the Trump answer. And now, a portion of America has to contend with the question. Why isn't that the Trump answer? Why is Trump not simply saying anyone found in the files to be involved in what Jeffrey Epstein is doing should be condemned and charged to the fullest extent of the law, regardless of their political party? Why is that not being said? Instead, we have Trump trying to start an investigation, by his own admission, just targeting Democrats. Okay? That was his tweet, previous video. I have a reason. I think I have a reason, I personally think, why he's saying that. I think I have a personal reason why the White House is against the victims, calling what the victims went through a hoax. I have personal opinions about that. And you know what? I think Marjorie Taylor Greene does too. I think Thomas Massie does too. And I'm putting it out there because there is a decent chance that either of these two tomorrow just go on television and just publicly ask the question, why does Trump only want to look into Democrats? Current Democrats, by the way, because Trump switched parties at one point. Why is Trump trying to limit the scope of an investigation that would seal the files? Why is he trying to limit that scope? Why is this happening after we got emails released about Trump knowing what the girls are doing and that he told Ghislaine Maxwell to stop, which would mean he knew and didn't go to authorities, or at least no indication there he went to authorities? Why is this happening after an email where one of the victims said, they'll go to Epstein's house, but they just wanted to make sure Trump isn't there because he's always there. And then Trump makes a post about spending his time, how Democrats are spending their time at Epstein's. Now, all of this, of course, points out that, remember, in his statement, he only listed off that he's only taking calls from Republicans, not people that represent all of America, just ones that represent the Republican districts. But normally I would say you got to focus on that, right? That's a big deal, and it is a big deal. But I don't think that's the big story tonight. I think that is something, yeah, Trump always only represented the people that he thinks voted for him, right? That's common knowledge. We've seen that. The way he talks about disasters, I don't think either side can argue. The question really is, and the question that's in my mind, the question that I think everyone should be asking, come up with your own solution for why is he doing everything he can to bury these files? Why is he getting more desperate the closer a possible release happens? Why are other Republicans joining in and trying to muddy the waters and try to do everything they can to make it harder to release them? It could be Marjorie Taylor Greene fully believed all of the crazy nonsense she said before. I do think Marjorie's a bit of a lunatic. I just don't know how someone could reconcile, though, having the beliefs she believed about the QAnon stuff, but then try to do a cover-up here. And I think that's the point she's at. She believes in the victims, right? The victims. She believes the victims should come forward before her loyalty to Trump. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I don't know how many, if any, more videos I'll make on it, but I'll be watching it because imagine this is any other criminal case. Imagine if it didn't involve someone so politically divisive. Every true crime channel would be covering it. Because this is wild. See you in the next video.